All right. All right. Get started here in one moment. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. My name is Hillary Booker, and I am a member here at Florida Cannabis Action Network, and you are tuning in to the FLCAN Round Table. You can expect new episodes from us every other Monday at 6. The next two and a half weeks, we'll be talking about some of our members and who Florida Cannabis Action Network is. Before we dive in, Cannabis Action Network is a statewide nonprofit. We are made up of experienced leadership teams that are implementing strategies that bring us closer to ending cannabis prohibition. We believe people should have access to the whole entire plant, that home cultivation should be right, and that no one should be punished for the personal use of cannabis. So again, thank you for tuning in today. We are going to be talking with Jodi and Colette today and diving in with a few questions to get you guys familiar. So I'll go ahead and open up the floor for introductions and we'll go from there.
Well, I guess I'll start. My name is Jodi James, and I have been a volunteer with Cannabis Action Network, not quite since its inception, but I started actively volunteering with Cannabis Action Network in 1998. I currently serve as the president of our board of directors, which can be up to 12 people at any one time. And we've had a continuing board of directors since the 1990s. And I also chair our legislative committee.
And I'm Colette Florido, and I am the vice president of Florida Cannabis Action Network, and I'm also the current committee chair for the Business Guild. And so I am also the founder of CR World, which is a trusted premium hemp-infused brand and lifestyle. I do a lot of education and advocacy around the plant in more of a mainstream approach to try and normalize the conversation. I've been with FLCAN now for 4 years. Just came up on my memories about how we were up in Tallahassee 4 years ago, and that was my first time doing anything related to politics or advocacy or lobbying in that realm. So 4 years later, what I can first and foremost say is that FLCAN certainly helped me to shape how I can help contribute and help other people to understand what's happening in Tallahassee and other capitals.
Awesome. Thank you, Colette. So here at FLCAN, we have a few different committees happening in different ways everyone can get involved. I would love for us to touch on that. Colette is over a committee and would love Jodi to say a few words as well. So let's dive a little bit into that and let the people know what that's about.
Well, I went in my lane, because I've been a part of the industry now since 2016, 17. And so for me, I started with what I know, which is getting together with other business leaders, especially a lot of our small businesses, and try to formulate how we can contribute in addition to being that citizen part. So what we're trying to do with the Business Guild is to continue to connect those businesses with other businesses so we can have the conversations about our current challenges. We also have ways of being stronger as an organization. So for instance, as a business partner, if I want to have a presence at a function, I might co-partner with FLCAN so that we can have a table that we can display, and that really adds more value to that particular arena. So we really worked last year in the past year to try and make those opportunities and be in places like union meetings and in senior events and more in the community. So that's a lot of what the business committee is trying to do, is link with each other and then also how do we get into the community and speak to the folks who are patients or potential patients, and those who are interested and kind of curious.
I love kind of curious. For me, the idea of committees is exactly what Colette said. You find yourself interested in cannabis. Maybe you have started using cannabis and you find that it has really benefited your life. And now what? I have all this great information. I've had maybe even a life-affirming, life-changing experience. It's directly related to cannabis. Now what? And Cannabis Action Network is a place where the now what is do what you know. We have a communications committee because a lot of people are really just good on social media. They're not sure exactly what they want to go out and do, but they can really help us spread the word. They're artistic, so they can help us create a flyer. We have a Ways and Means committee because, of course, an organization like this has to do some fundraising. We have folks who, they just want to participate in a fun event. And so creating a fun event that can profit the organization is a great way to plug you in. The legislative committee is really where my head goes, because at the end of the day, there's a couple ways to change the law in Florida. Of course, we've been talking about initiatives since 2014. It's been all the rage. But, most people know that $25 million later, Trulieve is still working to get enough signatures to get on the ballot. So that didn't seem very realistic as a way for the zealous men and women who loved pot but didn't necessarily have huge bank accounts. You can go through the court, but again, if you go through the court to change the law, that means somebody got arrested or somebody's had their rights violated. And the way that every individual in the state of Florida can have an impact is with the legislature. And so that's been kind of my passion for the last decade, is helping folks to understand that working with their lawmakers not so scary. It's funny because until 2014, 2015, when a few patients started to get exemptions from criminal prosecution, there wasn't a lot of people who wanted to talk really loud and proud about using cannabis because, well, it was a crime. So now that we have all of these people who are really getting their lives back because they have access to the right medicine, what are they going to do with their lives? And so we also have some wellness activities that we do on a pretty regular basis, because now that you are well, now that you are getting your life back, what are you going to do with it? And I say vote. Vote. We are in Florida. Yeah, let there be sunshine and good laws to allow us to continue to prosper this program. So what are some other committees that we have that are pretty active? Right now, we have a group of people who are meeting together on a regular basis under the title Third Branch. The third branch definitely relates to the judiciary. Some people know that Florida Cannabis Action Network members are plaintiffs suing the Biden administration over guns, which I think is fascinating. There's a lot of misinformation out there about who can have a gun and what your medical marijuana card means to your Second Amendment. So Florida Cannabis Action Network has been busy on that, but we think there's more that can be done through the judiciary. And so we're doing some stuff to explore that. Fund committees, business committees, communications committees, leadership teams, and a lot of work with the third branch.
Absolutely.
We have a branch that we've also focused on. It's I don't know if it's an actual committee, but we have a focus on our veterans with our 100 strong, 100K strong.
Perfect. Now, thank you, ladies, for everything that you continue to do for Florida and all over for the patients. And for those that are interested and want to know more about the committees, our next episode as well, we'll have some more Florida CAN members on that will dive deep. And you can also go on our website where you can find information on how to become a member or join a committee for a meeting and see what you are aligned with. So I know, Colette, you did touch on seniors, so I would like to kind of circle back around that because, you know, the majority of our patients here in Florida are seniors. And I see a lot of things happening in the community where they are restricted. And what does that look like? And what is your mission currently within that realm?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the largest growing population of medical marijuana card holders here in the state. And that number will continue to rise as we see the baby boomer generation aging into the senior space and finding that that population understands that they want plant medicine as an option, and they're seeing this shift of leading with more natural approaches and using Western medicine as that secondary approach, which is very different than the way that we currently have medicine. The challenge is, of course, it's way more cost efficient with Western medicine. So, for us, where I'm trying to focus, I mean, we can't get too far down that path. We have to start with the basics. We need seniors to have access to the medicine in whole plant form so that they can be using it in a variety of different ways. And when I say that, I mean everything from smoking it to juicing it and putting it in as a daily part of their nutrition, because it is absolutely the way to keep your body in balance, trying to find that homeostasis. And so our seniors really are challenged because the state the state laws have been overridden by federal laws. Many of the communities that they live in are dictated by the funds that are given on a federal level. And so unfortunately, they just don't have access to the plant because they're afraid. The community doesn't want to lose any of their federal funds by breaking a federal law. And until it is descheduled, they're going to continue to have that challenge. Now, we're seeing a shift where they're starting to recognize that the hemp-based products are a better approach, and that they can utilize those right now because of the changes in the federal stance on CBD and the hemp. However, on the state level, the cannabis medical programs, only some communities are already allowing them to utilize their medicine on their campus, or even recognizing that they use it. Some look the other way, some will allow it, but they won't administer, and only the family member can come in. So there's lots of different approaches. There's nothing signaling this is a standardization of how we can use this medicine. So that's really what we're trying to get to. But even before that, it's education. We have a lot of people up in Tallahassee who are making the decisions on these laws, and they don't have a foundation of what the medicine means. They don't have a strong understanding of the plant and its various forms, and what happens when you change it by altering it synthetically. And so these are all things that we're trying to get to. So I don't want to go too far down the path, but really it all starts with education and making sure that my local community leaders and the folks that are sitting in Tallahassee making those decisions at least have a strong foundation of what the plant medicine is and how it's already helping the senior community. Because really, if we can reduce the number of dependencies on Western medicine, and especially on some of the harsher pharmaceuticals that are causing side effects and causing more challenges than creating solutions, we're going to age better in place, and that's our goal.
Awesome. And speaking of Tallahassee, it is Lobby Day this week. We have a lot happening on the 15th and the 16th. I would love for you guys to touch on that so we can let everybody that is listening know what's going on and what we are expecting to do while we are there.
Colette mentioned that she was with us 4 years ago for Lobby Day. This is actually our 7th annual Lobby Day. I will tell you that we did not have one in 2021. Of course, that was kind of COVID, and the Capitol was locked down, so it wasn't our fault. So this makes 8 years that we have been bringing average people who are really cannabis experts. Because even though the person who comes up here may be like, oh, I'm a novice, I've only been using cannabis for a couple of years and I've done some research, that hardly makes me an expert. That really does make you an expert, because the lawmakers that we're talking to, unless they are currently using cannabis themselves or they have a family member who's in the program, they may not know anyone that uses cannabis. I had a conversation with my mayor one time because, of course, as an advocate and a volunteer for Florida Cannabis Action Network, I've got to go talk to my local people. And I was talking to the mayor, and she said, well, you know, Jodi, the last time I knew someone who used marijuana was 7th grade. Now, she probably does know people who used marijuana. They just didn't tell her they used marijuana. But it's kind of like the sexual revolution, when people who were gay had to kind of come out of the closet and let people know they were gay. And again, that kind of comes back to what I was mentioning. 6 years ago, it was illegal to use cannabis in the state of Florida. And so it was really hard to get people to come out. And that fear that Colette touched on is still just about everywhere. So one of the things that you can expect if you come to Tallahassee with Cannabis Action Network on Wednesday and Thursday is the courage to break through the stigma, like-minded people to hold you up so that you can overcome whatever residual fears you might have. You'll get amazing education that will help you to maybe unlearn something that you thought maybe was true. And you can't blame lawmakers for being really scared about this stuff when you look at the annals of information that have been published by people like Drug Free America and researchers who equate the use of cannabis with heroin. And they come up and they spend a lot of money talking to lawmakers. And so at least once a year, Cannabis Action Network gives people who are passionate about this or curious about the political process, because we see both. We give them an opportunity to come to the Capitol and have an authentic lobby day experience. I laugh when I say authentic lobby day experience. That means by the end of the day, you will have been lost twice. You are likely to end up in a meeting you don't know what to do. Your feet will definitely hurt. It's authentic in all senses of the word. We're very excited, though. We take over the 3rd floor of the Capitol. When you walk into the Capitol on March 16th, you're going to see a great big welcome to the Capitol sign, and then Florida Cannabis Action Network presents. The places will grow. Cannabis Day at the Capitol.
And I just want to add on, because you had mentioned a few things there. Myself, I am still new to Florida Can, and that's exactly what it was, a curiosity of how things work and what I can do to make a difference. And one of the things someone told me one day was, if you are not uncomfortable, you are not learning. So it is okay to be uncomfortable. You're not alone or on the boat together. This is going to be my first time at the Capitol. I am still learning every day. And while it might seem like I know a lot in this space, I don't. I know a lot about the science and how it works with our body. But I want to learn more of legislation and how I can channel my voice and use it on a bigger platform to be able to make some movement. So I just wanted to touch on that, because if it is your first time or you are debating, please come be a part of it. We can be uncomfortable together and hold each other's hands through the halls. So I just wanted to mention that.
And I want to reiterate that real quick also, real quick, because I think a lot of people have this expectation of what you're supposed to know, or, yes, we all went through a class many years ago and we passed a test and we know some of the basics, and we can all sing the song about how, Bill turns into a law, or at least the very beginning of it, sitting on the steps,
I'm just
right?
a Bill, just a lonely old Bill.
Exactly. We got that far. But really after that, like, how do we make an impact? How do we make an impact? And I just still remember driving up there the first, even the second time I went up. This will be my third time going. And I remember trying to think of, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? The reality is, it's about listening. It's great for you to have your message, and it's great to have those points, but really our job is to understand what their goals are. They're laying out their agenda for this session of what they want to accomplish. How do we meet them in their agenda so that we all succeed? Because if we can find those answers, I think we're going to be the most successful. And it's not really about what I have to say about it, other than, of course, educating, which I can do all day. But really, it's about listening to what the leaders are, have their interests in, and how you can kind of get into their lane. So don't feel like you have to come knowing anything about the legislative approach. The whole day is laid out in such a way that you're gonna get it piece by piece until you are ready to sit down and have a conversation at a table with some of those legislators. And that's the exciting part of it, is that you go from 0 to in their face in a day. I mean, you come away with all of the tools that you're going to need to now take it back and do it at the local level. And I'll tell you, that's where I'm still learning, and I'm still trying to get to. But it's a great, great day of Tallahassee 101, being at the Capitol, really understanding what you know, and being around people that have been in this space for 25 years.
Yes.
Can I just say how valuable that little nugget of, who knows the history, who knows what's not worked, who already knows the players, and who's on our team, who's kind of on our team, who says they're on their team, but they don't vote that way. These folks have been doing this, and that's why I've been paying attention, and that's why I've been coming to the meetings. And I sit in the legislative calls. Again, I go there and I'm like, I'm not part of this. This is not really who I am, but it's important to me. And so I'm sitting in this, and these are the folks that are doing the legwork to make it easier for me to understand. So jump in. Jump in.
Absolutely. And kind of like what Colette said, having the opportunity to be in the room with people that have been doing this for some time. When you come, you will be leaving with so much knowledge. And I can share that from experience, having the opportunity just to go up for some workshops. It lit this fire in me that I didn't think could burn any hotter or bigger. And so I feel so confident, empowered just from listening, like Colette said. And it has pushed me to want to get in more local. And so while I move through that, we continue to do everything that we can. So thank you for sharing.
Well, and I think it's going to be fabulous, introducing you to the people who are making laws from your community. At the end of the day, who do we do things for? We do things for our friends. We do things for our family. We do things for people who are actively doing something that we support, right? So you don't think you can actively get out there and be doing this because of your job or whatever. One of our board members is anonymous. We run him under the name of Eric Hall. So on our website, you'll see Eric Hall is, what's he doing for us? Oh, bylaws, because Florida Can has a serious set of bylaws and a great set of guiding principles that have, kept us on the kind of in the same direction for a very long time. But Eric Hall, because of his sensitive job with the military, can't be vocal. So he works with us a little bit in the background as a pseudonym. And a lot of people send that anonymous money order or join and say, hey, but you can't use my name publicly, but they support the good work with a check. I am so enthusiastic about getting people coming to Tallahassee, getting to know their representative, finding out who that person is. And now when you go back home to wherever home is, you are that lawmaker's trusted advisor on cannabis. And quite frankly, I would rather a person who is being affected by this, or a small business owner who is living this day in and day out. That's who I want lawmakers listening to, not fat cat lobbyists who have a dozen different clients and are willing to trade your interest for the guy that writes the bigger check. Lawmakers need to know you, they need to like you, and when they know you and they like you and they understand why the changes that we ask for are important to you, they're going to be more likely to get behind it. So I need you, all of you that are listening, to get involved because lawmakers need to know you. One of our women, a fairly new membership, been with us a couple years, reached out, hey, can we take a meeting? I've got an idea for a bill. And in the last couple months, I've gone and introduced myself to the two senators that are kind of in her general area. And she's like, I've got an idea for a bill and I know people. All right. She's doing the work. She's doing the hard work. And then she lets us help her craft the bill and make some strategies for it. But, you know, Colette was mentioning coming in and doing what she knows. We also have those kind of conversations on a regular basis with people who are interested in starting a cannabis business. There are a lot of shady consultants out there,
to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can spend an awful lot of money listening to people who really have never been in the cannabis business, or you can join the business committee and you can get online with us a couple times a month via Zoom and talk about your concerns and know that an organization like Florida Cannabis Action Network is looking out for your bottom line, because really we are. The more people have access to cannabis, the more we can expand the market, the more diverse products that are out there and available, the better off the market is and the better off the consumer is. And at the end of the day, we understand that legalization is about who sells the product. Removing criminal penalties is about protecting the people who use it. And then now, you know, Colette mentions it's not just criminal penalties that we have to constantly be vigilant for, but it's some of those insidious lines hidden in a rule that says, oh, if we're getting federal funds, we just don't want to do this. Or and you can certainly be employed with us, wink, wink, nod, nod. But if you get hurt on the job, you're going to have to take a drug test. We're going to have to fire you. And we're not going to cover your medical expenses. Wink, wink, wait a minute. Nod, nod. So we're seeing those kind of things. And we do our best as the leadership team to identify those areas that are of the greatest concern to the people who are using cannabis, and then try and come up with a plan to impact it.
Thank you, Jodi. You guys have heard it. We've touched on our amazing vice president and president of Florida Can. We have kind of dived in a little bit to the committees as well as what to expect at the Capitol. And before we wrap this call up, I would love for you both to share what was one of your proudest moments as far as being a part of Florida Can and that you've seen that has gotten done while you've been here. I know that we have done a lot, and we have touched on a few things like our gun lawsuit and how we've helped along those lines. But for the people that are new here and want to know a little bit more as far as, you know, what we have done and maybe some of your proudest moments, I would love to share.
Okay, so we could go on for days if Jodi gets started, because I know she's been doing this a heck of a long time and she has some stories. And I think we could go on like a whole sub story of Jodi's stories. I think there are two that stand out. Again, for me, is my personal experience of actually walking into the Capitol and navigating it and being a part of something that is totally uncomfortable to me. I avoid the conversation in groups because it's just not something I like to be in the space where there isn't that fight. But in Tallahassee, that's what has to happen. It's just how it is. So really overcoming that was my personal experience. I think on an FLCAN level, I'll talk about the fun event. We had a celebration for one of our past presidents and current members, Kathy Jordan. Many know Kathy as the very reason that the state of Florida recognizes the use of cannabis in the smokable form. and we know her to be alive today because of the use of smokable flower for her ALS. To be able to celebrate her successes, to do a bit of a fundraiser for somebody who didn't expect to be alive as long, and to need those types of funds. I think that is in and of itself what FLCAN stands for. The fact that they stood there and they fought the fight, and she didn't back down. And even after a bill is introduced and she's arrested and she's raided 4 days later, and I don't know if I have all the facts, but the fact that even occurred, and this was a part of the FLCAN's history, and to see how it's moved in such a way that you could see a large group of all walks of life, all types of businesses, all different political stances, all in the same room celebrating this particular success and this woman. And so I'm excited that I was a part of that and able to throw that party at the center at St. Pete Beach, and to be able to to know that we're going to continue that fight. I really, really thought we would be a whole lot further along in some of this conversation. I know, right? She's laughing 25 years later, ha ha ha. But really, we thought we fast forwarded quite a lot of that 4 years ago, and and even further. And now it just seems like we're still pushing for that fight. So I'm excited that we got to celebrate that. It was a great experience, but we're still a long way from home.
So I was really glad you went first. It gave me an opportunity to, flip through the files of 25 years and figure out what is probably my proudest. In 2003 or 2004, I was able to sit in the 11th Circuit Court in Atlanta, Georgia. And the justices were hearing Florida Cannabis Action Network or the city of Gainesville versus Florida Cannabis Action Network. I can't remember who was the plaintiff and who, so, can't remember which name went first on that. But because of the work that Cannabis Action Network did between 1998 and 2005, we were able to protect free speech in Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. And I am really proud of that. If you want to go and you want to throw a big festival and you've got lots of funders and you want to put a fence around that park and you want to rent it and pay your security guards and sell tickets, you can do that. You could always do that. But if you are a small organization and you just want to talk about the First Amendment, if your speech is pure and you are giving information, you can do that in any public space in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama without fees. And I'm very, very proud of that. They can't charge you insurance. They can only charge you a nominal fee to make sure that you reserve the space. And the idea that we were instrumental in protecting the very first and most important amendment, in my mind, there's a reason it's first, our ability to speak, our ability to come together, to change laws, to protect your religious and your artistic freedoms. To me, that's pretty flipping important. And of course, we touched on the gun lawsuit, which is your Second Amendment right. We've been instrumental in teaching people about the Fourth Amendment right to, protect themselves. Again, 20 years of the work that Cannabis Action Network did was under prohibition. So, it's pretty exciting. It was very challenging when the low THC bill was getting ready to pass. And we had to make the decision, do we accept this low THC bill that nobody really liked much, or do we get nothing for the couple 100,000 kids that were suffering with seizure disorder in the state of Florida? It was a really tough decision to say, we would rather protect the kids than protect the people who are using marijuana recreationally or build an industry that's going to be great for business. At the end of the day, just like at the beginning of the day, Florida Cannabis Action Network was there for the people who need cannabis, the people who use cannabis, and the people who want to use cannabis. So it's been very humbling to see the depth and breadth of people who have come through Cannabis Action Network in the last 25 years and the real impact that we've had on lives every day. It's very exciting to me when the person that you counseled that was diagnosed with terminal cancer and you tell them, you know, this is an option for you, but you have to understand X, Y, and Z, which at one point was, if you want to use cannabis, you're either going to be a criminal, you're going to move, or, you know, those were some tough conversations. But then on the other hand, when the Parkinson's shakes subside or the cancer goes into remission because the cannabis has been effective in the treatment, that is awe-inspiring and humbling. And it keeps you getting up to go to work every day. And if nothing else, we can remember that the lady with ALS who is in a wheelchair is getting up and working 6 or 7 hours every day to end cannabis prohibition. What can you do?
Yes. Yeah.
Right? What's your excuse?
Yeah. And I just want to add on too, because, you know, you said tough, you know, we come across tough decisions, you know, within this space. And so, you know, I'm glad you said that, because I think a lot of people, including myself prior to understanding how things work, don't realize how complex things are. And it's very easy to quickly make assumptions or accusations. And so ask questions. Don't be afraid. You know, we're here to educate and help you navigate through that. And asking questions is super important because, again, usually behind certain things, there are tough decisions to be made and a lot more details that are being missed. And go ahead, Colette. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay. I'm just circling back. And one of the things that I think is really interesting is that FLCAN is a whole lot more than just Florida. As Jodi pointed out, you know, I think that it's interesting that we also have helped in other states to help move their process along, because we know if their state moves progressively in the same direction, we will see that national shift take place a lot faster. And so those, you know, those who are trying to see what FLCAN is all about, just know that we're going to talk at the local level, because that's where we want to start. But you can see how quickly we can go from your local community to the state level to a national level. And just this week, we will be hearing from one of our members who will be chiming in from an international level as well. So I think it's really interesting. And if you want to mention that, you know, details on that, but that's the sort of reach that you can get to if that's important to you.
Yeah, I'm very proud to have Mike Crowitz serving on the board of directors of Florida Cannabis Action Network. While Mike comes from Virginia, he has a long history, 25 years of advocacy and activism. And his primary work, you mentioned the Veterans Committee, was early on getting permission from the Veterans Administration, getting confirmation from the Veterans Administration that veterans who were using cannabis lawfully in their state under their state program would not face any threats from the Veterans Administration regarding their benefits. So that's huge. We don't have as active a Veterans Committee as we've had in the past, but Mike himself is on the leadership of the Veterans Action Council. And so we're doing a whole lot of things through Mike by proxy. Mike's going to be at the United Nations this week. The United Nations is kind of where the nexus of all of the drug laws that the United States has kind of fostered start there at the United Nations in something called the Single Convention Treaty. And you could probably do a whole segment on the Single Convention Treaty and how that affects the world. But the United Nations has a committee who is charged with regulating the flow of drugs around the world. And because of the influence of powerful groups like Drug Free America, which of course is housed in St. Pete, I just want to put that out there. We are the birthplace of Drug Free America. But because of the influence of groups like Drug Free America on the international community, rather than regulating the flow of drugs around the world, this group has really made it their mission to stop the flow of drugs around the world. And it's fascinating to me to realize that the amount of heroin that people are using in the United States is negatively affecting the amount of morphine that people can get in developing nations, because of course it's all derived from the same plant. So the diversion of the poppy plant into the illegal market has caused a lack of the plant to be available for developing countries that would need morphine. So it's just fascinating. We're thankful that Mike is going to be there and has been there. And we're also thankful that Mike is going to be speaking for a few minutes from the United Nations at our dinner on Wednesday night. If you are local to Tallahassee and would like to join us Wednesday night at 6:30, there is a $20 cover charge, and we're going to be at the Panda Buffet, a nice Chinese buffet, meets everybody. We've got a private room. $20 is the cost for your inclusive meal with your soft drink, and it will get you a raffle ticket. We have a great basket from CR World. We have a magical butter machine for extracting plants extract into oil. You can use for all kinds of plants. Of course, I have a favorite. We have a fabulous basket from Marijuana Minds, which is a podcast. And we have a soft-sided cooler from Kaitra Labs. So something.
And from Grow Flow,
we have Flow. That's right.
Skateboard, and we have some King Palm products that they're sending over.
So there you go. It's a win-win. You get a great meal for $20. You get a little education on our gun lawsuit. You get to hear directly from the United Nations, and you might win a prize.
Yeah, thank you so much, ladies. And for those who aren't able to make it, you can definitely stay tuned and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, as well as Instagram. We will make sure to push out information as far as Mike and when he is at that level speaking. That way we can tune in. But you have heard it from the amazing ladies themselves. We appreciate you joining today and getting to know us a little bit better. And of course, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to us. And we look forward to talking to you guys very soon. Thank you so much, Colette and Jodi.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.